Hello, this is part 2 of the tutorial to walk you through how to complete your outline. Now, part 2 is actually going to focus on the evidence, which is your specific example. So in the last part, we talked about the thesis statement. For this part, we're going to talk about what is your specific example. Now, the reason why I'm skipping A is because you cannot complete A until you know what your evidence is going to be. So in my thesis, I have 3 areas that I'm going to focus on. And for this example, I'm going to focus on the scientific section of my thesis. So this entire spec set will be about science. And I'm going to prove that the ancient Chaldeans were an advanced civilization with their scientific discoveries. So with my evidence, a few critiques. First, I need to choose a direct quote from the book of a piece of evidence that's something that the Chaldeans specifically did that made their civilization unique from anybody else. I don't just say they looked at the sky. I don't just say they studied science. I give a specific example. Now, critiques for your outline first. Before I give the evidence, I need to embed it. Embedding means that I cannot just drop a quote at the start of my specific example. I actually need to lead into the quote. You can never, ever start a SpEx with a quotation marks. If you do, you've done it wrong. So to embed, I come up with things starters such as for instance. Now in this case, the book did not have the words the Chaldeans, so I added that so my evidence makes sense. But you can use for instance, as illustrated, as stated in the textbook. For example, and there's tons of transitional words and phrases that you can find and look up, and I expect you to do that. So as we move forward, I know it's a simple thing, but embedding your quote is really important because it needs to be a complete thought. So I say, for instance, the Chaldeans. And then I start the quote that I get from the textbook. Every time you do a specific example, it better be a direct quote. Unless you're paraphrasing and I've given you permission, like from a video clip, you can't write word for word what the video said. So in that case, you're not going to have quotation marks. You'll paraphrase. It still needs to have a citation, but you won't have the direct quotes because it's impossible to direct word for word. But in this case, because it's a quote from the book, I need quotation marks. So I say, for instance, the Chaldeans, and then I give the quote from the book. Recorded their observations of the stars and made maps that showed the position of the planets and the phases of the moon. That's a direct quote from the book. That's my evidence that I'm going to use to prove that the Chaldeans had an advanced civilization. Now, my SpEx gives no information about how that is. I should have no opinion. Some of you are putting it's the most important thing ever recorded. You're telling me that it's the most fantastical thing ever done. That is an opinion. I have no opinion in here. Without an analysis, this is just a fact about the Chaldeans. The other 2 parts of my spec set will work to support the thesis. Right now, this is an unbiased fact. Please, please, please remember that. It has to be separate from an analysis. You're going to notice then that I end the quotation mark and I have a citation of text because it's from the textbook, page 90, and I have a period at the end of the parentheses. One of my biggest critiques is I am still getting a number of you who do not cite any of your facts. You are not following the rule that I have set into place since we've started this class, and 4 weeks in, please remember you must cite every specific example you find. If it's from the textbook, it's text in 90. If it's from notes from me, it's Barksdale notes. If it's from a source that's not from me, please ask if you're unsure. If it's a book, it's author's last name in the page. You need to cite every single specs you write down. All right, part 2 is all set. Good luck.